In all considerations of wages, we will start with what's called a basic wage, which is the amount of money paid for hours worked or jobs done. In most of our calculations, we will deal with hours worked, and as such, the calculation for the basic wage is going to be the product of multiplying the basic rate, which is amount of money per hour, so it's an hourly rate, that multiplied by the basic week, which is the number of hours worked in a regular or normal working week. So for an example, if someone works for $10 hourly and they work a 40-hour week, their basic wage for that week is $400. And again, we can also say if someone is working for $700 a week and they work a 35-hour week, then we can know that their basic hourly rate is 700 divided by 35, which is $20 per hour. So given the relationship between the basic wage, the basic rate, and the basic week, if we know any two of them, we can use them to solve the third one. In addition to the basic wage, you can also work hours beyond the basic week, and they are paid for usually under special conditions referred to as overtime. An overtime pay is where your basic rate is now affected by a multiplier for those hours that you work overtime. In other words, if you would normally work $10 per hour during your 40-hour week, any hours you work overtime might be paid for at $15 an hour or $20 an hour for the particular hours that you are working outside of that 40-hour week. So calculations for overtime pay are usually constructed in this way. Whatever the overtime factor is, whether it be double time, triple time, time and a half, multiplied by the basic rate to increase the hourly rate at which you are paid, multiplied by the hours that you work overtime. So the common examples of overtime factors would be time and a half, which is 1.5 times the basic rate, double time, which is 2 times the basic rate, and triple time, which is 3 times the basic rate. Here's our example. Jonah works a 40-hour week for which he is paid $480. That would be his basic wage. If in a particular week he works 6 hours overtime at the time and a half rate and 5 hours overtime at the double time rate, calculate his gross wage for that particular week. We know that his gross wage, which is a new term, is the composition of both his basic wage, $480, and overtime pay. His gross wage is really all the money that he's paid in a particular week. Given the information we have, we know that that's made up of a basic wage and overtime pay. We know the basic wage, we have to calculate how much money is his overtime pay. Now, his overtime pay, if we go from what we know, is made up of the overtime factor multiplied by the basic rate and that is all multiplied by the number of hours he works overtime. Now there are two different overtime rates that he's paid at. Therefore, we'll have to work out each of them separately and then combine them for his overtime pay. But before we get there, we notice that we have not been given in the question his basic rate, but we do have enough information to solve for his basic rate. If we know that he is paid $480 for working a 40-hour week, then his basic rate would be $480 divided by 40. The total amount of money he makes for the week divided by the hours he works that week will tell us how much money he is paid every hour, which is $12 per hour. Using this, we can see that his overtime pay, and I'm going to put the two calculations side by side, is going to be at the first rate, time and a half is 1.5 multiplied by his basic rate multiplied by 6 hours. That's how many hours he worked at the time and a half rate. And then 2 multiplied by the basic rate multiplied by 5 hours, which is the number of hours worked at the double time rate. When you combine the two solutions, you get $228 in overtime pay, which means that his gross wage, combination of the two, is $480 basic wage plus $228 overtime pay, which gives us $708 gross wage for the week.